This is a Renew original recording. Hello and welcome to Season 3 of Believe in People, the British podcast award-winning series exploring addiction, recovery and the stigma that surrounds them. I'm Matthew Butler, your host, or as I like to say, your facilitator. Today's guest is Kaitlin, and this episode tackles a subject we've not explored before, motherhood in addiction. We talk about the fear of asking for help, the double standards placed on women, and why so many mums stay stuck in addiction longer than they need to. We also explore childhood trauma, hiding substance use in plain sight, 12-step recovery, and what it means to rebuild yourself while still parenting every single day. This is a conversation about stigma, secrecy, and what it takes to choose recovery when everything is on the line. I suppose I've got quite a niche subject that I want to talk about with you today, and it's not something that I've explored in this series before, and that's primarily motherhood.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that really interested me was a video that you'd posted on your Instagram. And when I saw that, I knew we'd been in talks to get you on anyway, but when I saw that, I was like, right, we really need to get her on this series. And I've got a quote here. You said, "Mums don't want to be told to get sober. They want to know how to ask for help without losing their kids." That is a really poignant point to me, because I think there's so many women, especially in the recovery service in which I work in, that took so long before making that step towards treatment, towards getting help, because of the stigma of addiction, that their instant thought was, I can't get help because I have children. They'll find out about my drug habit. They'll find out about my alcohol dependency. I'll have them removed. So what does that fear actually look like in reality, thinking of your own experiences of it?
I think when it comes to my experience, that was by far the biggest thing that was holding me back for asking for help. For years and years, I was done. I did not want to be drinking. I didn't want to be taking drugs anymore. But I was like, I don't know where to go. I don't know who to ask safely for help without losing my children. You know, mothers are judged far more harshly than dads, and that is not me being against men or dads whatsoever, but it is the reality that mums are more harshly judged when they suffer with this illness of addiction. And so, you know, if a dad stands up and says, I've got a problem, everyone's like, okay, no worries, we'll help you go off to rehab. You can go and fall apart. You can have a break. And mum can't do that. So mums stay stuck in that cycle for so much longer than is necessary. I was stuck in that cycle. It was the shame, the guilt, the fear, all holding me back because, like I said, I didn't know where I could go to. I certainly wasn't going to go to my GP because social services are going to get involved. And although I wasn't the best mum in the world, I also wasn't the worst mum in the world. And I didn't think that I deserved to lose my kids. I didn't think my children deserved to lose me, even more so. But I desperately, desperately wanted to get sober for a really long time before I actually took the first step towards doing that.
Where did it start with you? Like addiction, substance misuse. There's often maybe an adverse childhood experience, perhaps a trauma. What was it that drew you to those substances in the first place?
Well, I think the question before that is the one that's asked quite a lot, isn't it? Was I born this way, or was it the traumatic experiences that led me towards this? I think for me it was both. I think I was born with a predisposition to it because it is in my family. I think childhood traumatic experiences definitely exacerbated that. And I think, you know, scientifically it's proven that people who become addicts are biologically different. I've got friends who used and drank exactly the same as me, but they didn't turn out to be addicts. I'm person B, and I did. I started using substances really young. I mean, even before I picked up a drink and a drug, there were things like the food was a big one for me. Stealing, hiding, lying about food, codependent friendships. There was addictive behaviours in that. Disney films, fantasy. I would escape into the world of fantasy from a really young age. I was that kid at school that's like, Kaitlin could do better if she wasn't in fantasy land the whole time. She wasn't in daydream world. So I actually think that addiction showed up for me way before I even picked up a drink and a drug. And I actually think that finding drink and drugs at that age probably in some way saved me, because I was never a happy child. There was trauma, there was neglect. It wasn't a happy time, or, you know, it wasn't a good time for me. And I can remember being 9 years old, sitting on my bedroom windowsill, wanting to jump because I wanted to die. I was so unhappy. And I do often wonder, if I hadn't have found drink and drugs, would I still be here? But I think I know, age 10, I started drinking. I was given little bits before that. And it sounds quite wild, but it was a different time back then.
Yeah, no, how old are you?
40.
Okay. I remember when I was young, my dad said, here, have a bit of this. And it was a little bit of Stella.
Yeah.
And I remember taking them out and just going, pff. But it was quite a normal thing. I think most people that grew up in the late 80s, early 90s will have some pictures of them as a child, and there might be like
a packet of fags in a box.
Yeah, because your parents found that hilarious.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
And
so I get it.
I've got photos of my children holding a bottle of champagne.
Yeah.
When I look at that now, I think, what was I doing? It's so inappropriate. And I would never let my children drink at the age of 10 now. But when I did it, okay, look, I'm not saying it was appropriate. I don't think my school friends were also drinking in their bedrooms age 10, but I was allowed to. And I'd say the first time I got paralytic, I was about 13. And alcohol was not my favourite thing, because I didn't like feeling sick.
But it goes back to that escapism.
It changed the way that I felt. It gave me a bit of confidence, because remember, I was very depressed, I was not very confident. I was always bullied at school. So when I found this thing that helped me like let loose a little bit and let go a bit and have a bit of fun, like I didn't forget that existed. So as soon as I could, I grabbed hold of that. So I was out partying 15, 14, partying, going to clubs and pubs and bars. You didn't need ID back then, so you could get away with it a lot more.
Do you know what's always funny though, when I think back to my teenage years, of that, again, I've talked about this before, but that it's almost like a rite of passage in British culture to go drinking on a park as a teenager. And at the time you feel like you're old enough to do those things, but I have like nieces and nephews that are at that age, and I still see them as babies.
They're children.
And I know, to think of what I was doing at that age.
Yeah.
If they was doing a fraction, that I'd be absolutely mortified.
I know.
I'm like, no, you are babies still. You're so young.
And your brains are not developed enough. They often say, don't they, once you start heavily using drink and drugs, that's when your brain stops developing, you stop maturing. And I definitely felt that when I went into recovery at 36, I felt like I was 16 years old again. I had to relearn life.
Well, you present quite young. I don't mean this insulting, but when I asked your age and you said you was 40, the voice in my head was like, fuck off. Do you know?
Thanks.
One, you don't.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah, well, I've had this before. I got in trouble before when I said someone didn't look 50, because there was like, what's a 50-year-old supposed to look like? And I was like, well, hang on, I was trying to do very tricky waters to navigate it, so I'm very conscious of when I talk about this. But yeah, it's maybe it's my perception of age as well. I still remember my mum's 40th birthday when I was 16, and like that seemed like she was a proper grown up with her life together, and she knew everything about everything. And now I'm 35, but I'm looking at the idea of that being 5 years from now. I was like, no, you were still doing this all for the first time.
Yeah.
And I guess that comes back to yourself as well. You said feeling like you're 16 again, you're having to relearn things. Talk me through that a little bit.
Well, I was 15, 16 when I started using drink and drugs heavily. So I'd say that probably is about the age I stopped maturing in a lot of ways. And when I came into recovery, we have to have this whole moral psychic change to be able to change our thought patterns so that we don't need drink and drugs to deal with everyday life. So there would be situations arise, within the family or what I call grown-up shit that I didn't know how to handle properly. I didn't always know how to tell the truth properly. It certainly wasn't emotionally stable. I would handle situations like I was 15 or 16. parenting, that's been something I've really had to look at in recovery, because the way that I parent, it's completely changed. My kids hate me for it sometimes. But being the adult in the household, because I was acting like a spoiled child for a really, really long time. It's very difficult sometimes when people ask me these kind of questions. I struggle to answer them, because my recovery journey has been a really slow process, a day by day process. And it's only when I look back at a situation that I think, oh, wow, I handled that completely differently and I didn't make it all about me. I think that's the biggest key difference when situations come up that I have to handle, is I wasn't my first thought. There was a situation like not that long ago where my child was in hospital, and all I cared about was them being okay. A few years ago, if my child was in hospital, I thought, how am I going to have a drink? How am I going to have a spliff? This is going to be 24 hours without a line. How am I going to do me? How am I going to do this? So that there's been a big shift in my priorities.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
Do you find, because I often found that when I was younger and I would get stick from my parents, I remember thinking, when I have kids of my own, I'm gonna be the cool dad. I'm gonna be the best friend. And you kind of realise. I mean, my daughter's only 4, but you kind of become the fun police in a strange way as well. And you realise, actually, no, my obligation here is for safety and protection, not to be liked.
Definitely.
And I think that is one thing that was a bit of a shock for me, was I always thought my priority would be, I want them to like me.
Yeah, I think when you're in active addiction, right, you are just surviving on fear. I was so scared I was going to lose my children. I was so scared to be taken away, that other people would take them away from me, that I was just desperate for them to love me and to like me.
Yeah.
Whereas today, look, I want them to love me and like me. Of course I do. But my role is to be your mum, and sometimes that means you're not going to love me and like me. And that's okay, because that will pass.
Do you think society judges mothers with addiction differently to everyone else? You mentioned, obviously, the difference that dads, in the way that dads are treated. How did you feel that personally?
As the mum, society teaches us that we should have our shit together 24/7. We're the primary caregivers normally. We're normally the ones that run the home. We're the emotional support for the children. We've got to organise the school. We've got to do all the trips. We've got to run the household. It's a hell of a job in itself for any mother. It's a massive job. But when we are not performing on one of those scales, we're bad mums. When a dad is not performing on one of those scales, they're not judged in the same way. Me as a mother, people would say things to me like, don't you love your children enough? Aren't they enough for you to stop? You must be neglecting or harming your children because of what you're doing. And I don't think any of those were the case. But yeah, I think it lands differently when a mum says, I've got a problem with drugs. It's, oh my God, how could you? How dare you? When a dad says, I've got a problem with drugs, it lands differently. And I don't necessarily have all the answers for that. That's a question for society to answer.
I think the bar is set so low for society in some ways as well. The things you just mentioned, and I am a very hands-on dad, so she's currently going through the schooling application process. Like, I did all that. I saw a lot of the childcare out, and that's not me doing more than my wife. That I think it's just very much a 50-50 process. But the bar is set so low that when I would take my daughter, she's 4 now, but when I would take her to playgroups, if I had the day off work, I'd take her to the park. I was getting clapped. I remember changing a nappy at my wife's grandparents' house, and a granddad couldn't speak highly enough of me. It's like, oh, I never did that back in. Oh, you're such a good dad. And I'm like, the bar is set so astronomically low for men in comparison to women.
Yeah. I think like when it comes to men as well, like when you go into the rooms of recovery, you probably see it with your services as well. There are so many more men than there are women.
Yes.
And I don't think that that's because more men are addicts than women are.
And that is exactly why I'm keen to talk to you today, because
Yeah.
I know that ratio of men to women, and I know 100% if I look at the landscape in our city where our substance misuse service operates out of, that there are so many women that just aren't engaged in services for all the reasons that you're stating now.
Yeah, I think number one is fear you're going to lose your children. You know, if a mum needs to go to rehab, well, actually, to be fair, I don't actually know very many mums who get the opportunity to go to rehab, because who's going to look after their kids?
Yeah.
If they had to go to their dad, everyone would rally around, everyone would help, everyone would look after them, but it's not the same way the other way around. I know plenty of dads that can go to rehab, that can go out to meetings 3 times a week, that can be on the phone to newcomers all the time, that can do all the service for the fellowship in the world. It is a hell of a lot trickier for a mum to fit recovery around looking after the children as well. You know, I certainly found when I first came into recovery that when I was going out to 3 meetings a week, it was, why are you leaving us again? Where are you going? Don't you love us? Don't you want to be around us? And it's like, I had that real pull between, if I don't go, I can't be your mum. And if I go, you're going to be upset with me.
Yeah.
Which one do I do?
It's a rock and a hard place, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is. Yeah. But, you know, I'm very much taught that anything I put before my recovery, I'm going to lose. And I've seen that happen time and time again. And what I see with women as well in particular is when a woman loses her children, she loses her children. When a dad loses his kids, he's probably lost access to them for a little bit of time. And after a bit of recovery, he can get them back. Those are 2 different things.
Yeah.
I think women have to work a hell of a lot harder.
What sort of stigma and languages did you face then? Because obviously you would have had social service involvement. Did you not have social service?
I did not, no.
Oh, wow.
No.
How did you sort of get around that then?
Honestly, my life was exhausting. It was an absolute shit show, but I worked really, really hard to hide what I was doing. My children wouldn't have known that I was an addict if I hadn't have told them.
Really?
Yeah.
How many children have you got?
3.
What are the age ranges?
18, 14 and 6.
So the way you communicate with all 3 of them is very different. You've got one who's an adult, one who is very much just in that coming of age transition, and then you've got a child.
And one who's autistic. It can be really challenging. That one will say to me, I wish you still drank because you were more fun then.
Yeah.
What they mean by that is I let them get away with everything. I let them have takeaways. I didn't put them to bed on time. I was a lazy parent. That's what they mean by that. But they can't see, because they didn't know that actually I was really struggling with the illness of addiction. I think by the end, I could see them starting to look at me like, why does her face look like that? What's going on with mummy? Why is she up drinking again? Why does she look like that in the morning? So they were starting to realise that something wasn't right. They didn't know I was struggling with addiction.
Yeah.
I hid it really, really well.
What about friends, family? How aware was... Because it's one of the things where I think if I had a family member who was struggling with addiction, I would want to... Well, I think I'd have a moral responsibility based on what I know from a safeguarding point of view of those children to make a referral to social services based on that. But that I know that because of my professional background. How was that for your family and friends who knew you were struggling with addiction and knew you had children? I mean, you can't say exactly how they felt, but how was navigating that with them?
I think when it comes to friends, most of my friends were doing what I was doing. So
you surround yourself with...
you surround yourself with like-minded people. And I surrounded myself with a lot of younger people as well, because that helped me justify my behaviour.
Because they don't see it as not abnormal, I suppose, in some way. Yeah, they don't see it as abnormal because they're doing the same things.
They're doing the same things,
the difference is you're like 30 and they're 19, 20, do you know? Yeah. I get that completely.
With regards to my family, I think they knew I smoked a lot of weed. I don't think they thought it was to the level that I was putting anybody in danger. I think they just all thought I was a bit mad. And to be fair, I was a bit mad. I wasn't a normal person. But I became a very, very good liar. a good manipulator. Even though if you'd asked me at the time if I was any of those things, I would have said, fuck off, how very dare you.
How very dare you.
Yeah, with hindsight, I can see that I had become those things that I didn't want to be. But yeah, like I said, I hid it really, really well. I didn't look very well. I don't know how I hid it that well. I was a size 4. I couldn't walk anymore. I was so ill. I was constantly, had a crusty nose, couldn't breathe, and red eyes all the time, blue lips. I wasn't a well person, but I isolated myself more and more. As it got worse, I isolated myself, and I didn't really go anywhere or see anybody for them to see how bad it was. Yeah. And it was definitely at its worst when I was by myself, when my children weren't there. And now I'm not going to lie and pretend that I didn't do things whilst they were there, because I did. But yeah, I did. I hid it well.
So obviously,
having said that, when I decided I was going to go to recovery, and I kind of realised, okay, this is going to change my whole life. I'm going to have to tell my partner. And I remember being in tears, crying, so upset, and saying that I'm really, really sorry, but I just can't stop taking coke, and I don't want to be this person anymore. I'm going to have to do something about it. I know you don't realise how bad it is, but it is really bad. And they went, yeah, I know. Do you really think I didn't know? And I remember saying to my sponsor at the time, well, if they really loved me, why didn't they say something to me? Why didn't they try and save me? And she quite rightly said, what would you have done if they had? I would have told them to fuck off, leave me alone, get out my house. And then I would have lost my support network. Yeah. So I don't know if it is the right thing always to intervene. I think when it comes to drink and drugs and addiction, that person is not going to stop until they've had their internal snap. It doesn't matter what you say. You can't love somebody. You can't wish somebody sober. You can't even help somebody sober. It's got to come from that internal snap within them. And then you can support them. Of course you can, but the only person that can get someone sober is themselves.
Absolutely. And again, you can't point out that someone has a problem if they don't see it as a problem.
No.
You know, you do really, as a loved one of that person, it really is playing that waiting game until the penny drops for them.
And I'm in a similar position. There's somebody, you know, that I really love, and they absolutely have a severe problem. But me telling them that's not going to help them. And that's really hard. Seeing it from the other side now is like, oh wow, okay, now I see where people who loved me were coming from.
When did you first take cocaine then? Because obviously you started 16. What attracted you to it? Was it just that continuism of escapism, or was there something else that attracted you?
I thought it was glamorous, if I'm honest.
Is that because I mean it's quite cocaine, interesting enough, it's quite synonymous with like a lot of models and you know, Hollywood, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and I mean, when I was 16, I was working on High Street, Kensington and the King's Road, and that was very much the life I was submerging myself into. I started going to A-list clubs where there were Hollywood stars and models and musicians, and that came with it. I thought it was really glamorous. I thought it was really grown up, and that was a big thing for me, that taking drink and drugs is what grown-ups do. I was, like I said before, I was very, very unhappy, and I thought that once you grow up and you start taking drink and drugs, that's what makes you happy. So I couldn't wait. I honestly couldn't wait. I can remember my first line, and even now my head's like, wasn't that so nice? It fucking wasn't. That's actually a lie. At the beginning, I had loads of fun, and I'm not going to ever sit here anywhere and pretend that it wasn't fun at the beginning. That's how it gets you.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. It starts as something enjoyable. Otherwise, you wouldn't continue to do it.
Yeah. And my first line, I didn't really think anything of it. It tasted like shit. Fuck, that drip down the back. I was like, that's disgusting. Why is anyone doing that? I still did it a few days later again. And I did it until it stuck. And when it stuck, it fucking stuck. And within a month or two, I was doing it at work, at home. It's shut in my bedroom. Obviously, when I was going out, and I was out 6-7 nights a week. So I was doing it pretty much daily, really quickly. And it's funny though, people, because Coke is the class A, I think they think that's the one that really, really gets you. And yeah, it did really get me. But I'm telling you, without a doubt, weed was by far the hardest thing for me to quit. Out of all the drugs I've ever taken.
I'm going to go back to cocaine before I explore the cannabis with you. But because the part that does interest me, and you're not the first person to say this, if I took something once and I didn't like it, I'm not having it again.
That's because you're a normal person.
Okay.
You're person A.
Yeah, I'm person A.
I'm person B.
So that's it, yeah. But why? I guess I'm just trying to get my head around the idea of why you would continue to do something that you just didn't like. Was it really to kind of fit that, you said about it being glamorous, to kind of present as that glamorous person? Why would you continue to do something when you've taken it and gone, that tastes like shit?
It's just what everyone was doing. It was there. And like I said, I was trying to become somebody that I wasn't. And part of that lifestyle was doing Coke. The other thing is that I definitely have had an undiagnosed eating disorder throughout, from my childhood going through. Cocaine kept me skinny.
Okay, yeah.
That was definitely, for me, a benefit of that. But yeah, and like I said, it was really quick. It didn't take long for it to become really tasty. For me, it gave me a lot of confidence, and I needed that. I was shy. I would call myself an introvert, extrovert. I'm one or the other. And I was,
I do have to check myself there a little bit, because if I think back to the first time I had alcohol, I remember thinking this is disgusting. My taste buds adjusted to a point where now I really do enjoy it. But again, I've said this before, and again, talking to person A, they don't understand when I say I just like to have one. Because I don't
get that. What's the point of that?
Exactly. But for me, the only way I can describe it is if I like a can of Coke now and then.
Yeah.
But once I've had the can of Coke, I don't go to the fridge and get another can of Coke.
Yeah, you're past A, man.
Exactly. So once I have the beer, I've had the taste of it, I enjoy it, and that's me done. But person B can't get their head around that. But I think the reason why I mention that is because I have to think when I first had alcohol, specifically lager, hated it. But then your palate changes. So I suppose in some way, cocaine, that can be a similar thing.
Yeah.
How much money did you spend on cocaine? Like, I mean, there's a lifetime amount, of course, and then there's like a daily, a weekly amount.
I've tried not to think about it too much. I mean, at what point are we talking?
What would you be using weekly?
But I mean, at what point in my addiction? Are we talking when I was younger? Are we talking towards the end?
Let's talk about like, the height of it. The height of addiction. How much were you spending, roughly, daily, weekly?
Anything between 50 and 150 a day.
Fuck.
Yeah.
How do you fund that?
And that was, I had 2 jobs.
Okay.
Yeah, I worked really hard. I worked really hard to fund my addiction.
Really was grafting. You know?
I was, yeah. I worked for my cocaine. Thank you very much. So people ask me that a lot. They're like, "How did you afford it?"
That's the bit that always gets.
I mean, I barely worked, and I wondered why nobody liked me at work. It's like, no wonder, Kate. You're either turning up like hungover, high, on a come down, and you need to find a new job. Oh, I wonder why. Yeah. But yeah, no, I did. I worked from the age of 13. I was a grafter.
Yeah, it must make you. I think someone said about there's an app that you can get where you connect it to your banking. Basically, like I could click on McDonald's and see how much I've spent at McDonald's over the years. And if I ever did that, it'd probably be a grotesque amount of money. Yeah. Do you know, that'd probably make me feel sick about the amount of money I've spent on just like fast food and stuff like that. But I imagine if you used to do that for a specific substance, like if you could, tie your bank to the substance of cocaine, the lifetime amount would make you sick. I know someone who quit drinking and drugs, I think it was 1,500 days ago, and they bought themselves a McLaren with the money they spent. Wow. I was like, incredible. What? Yeah. So it's just pocketing it every day. Fucking hell, McLaren, are you mad? You're thinking, what could I have bought? Yeah, I know. But then, there would be days when I didn't do any, but I always smoked weed. Yeah. So
that was a non-negotiable.
Talk to me about cannabis, because the two very different substances. Cocaine being very much a stimulant. I suppose cannabis fits in a lot of categories, but for a lot of people, found it maybe a bit of a depressant. Is a way to relax. Two very different ends of the spectrum there with those substances.
Yeah.
How did that work for you?
I mean, like I said, I'm an introvert, extrovert. So
I say this and people don't know what I mean, but you said that and I know exactly what you mean by that. I'm an introverted extrovert.
They both suited me. There's two sides of me. I mean, there's also the side of me that I still love a glamorous lifestyle, but there's another side of me that wants to like go and live in a hut on a beach and survive off the land.
Yeah.
And these two sides of me constantly clash. And it was the same when I was taking drugs. You know, half of me thought I was a Rasta and half of me thought I was Kate Moss.
Yeah.
And it was a constant battle of trying to find the balance. And another thing, you know, I say that those were my main drugs of choice, but I was also taking other things to try and balance everything out. So, you know, it's a saying in recovery, like, we've become our own chemists, and that was absolutely what I did. Because, you know, I would also try a bit of MDMA to try and level me out a little bit, or Valium. That Xanax, I could buy those. I loved those. Those were really useful for me, because when my heart's going and I think I'm going to die at night, the easiest way to try and bring my heart back down so I don't die overnight is another substance. It was a constant balancing act of all the different substances put together. But I loved weed. The first time I smoked weed, I think, honestly, it was probably one of the happiest days of my life. Bar having my children. That was when there's a saying in because I'm in 12-step fellowship, right? So our book, there's someone in our book and they say, I have arrived. My I have arrived moment was that first time I smoked a joint. And again, I can remember that moment. And you know, I still think of it really fondly, which is a bit fucked up considering where it led me to, but it goes back to that two sides, doesn't it?
So what was it about it that you did like? Talk me through
it made me laugh.
Yeah.
I felt happy. I don't think I ever remember laughing as much as I did that first time I smoked that spliff. And I was with a boy who I wanted to impress as well. That helped because, you know, I was fat minging as a young girl. I wasn't very attractive, and you know, there was also a lot of stuff going on at home that made me feel really, really unhappy, but weed made me happy. And I remember that time I smoked it, but that was in the Easter holidays and I still had to finish my GCSEs, so I didn't touch anything. I drank alcohol. Didn't touch anything until that very last day of my GCSEs. I remember I went to school in South Kensington for that last year of school. Went to Hyde Park, smoked a joint after my last exam, went back to school, had a massive whitey in school, left school, picked up, bought alcohol and started there, and I never stopped smoking weed since that day. It was my best friend.
I've heard that before. People say that about substances. They become that best friend.
They were my best friend. They were my secret. They were the only thing that was by my side. They never failed me until the paranoia, the psychosis, the consequences start coming in.
When did it? If we think about when alcohol, cocaine, cannabis, and it all kind of like, it's almost like a melting pot that you've created there. Where's the lowest moment? Because obviously these are substances that by all accounts have given you nothing but highs that you're talking about here. At what point does it give you your lowest of low? Where's the rock bottom? Where's the lowest moment where you think, I've got to make some changes here. I need to get rid of these substances?
I think apart from the word craving, rock bottom is probably one of the most misunderstood sayings by people outside of recovery. I had many rock bottoms. I didn't always know that that's what they were. 'Cause even when I was 18, I was kidnapped when I was 18 by drug dealers, and I didn't see that as anything that wild at the time. When I look back and I think, oh my God, that's the same as my daughter. If she got kidnapped by drug dealers, like, it would be horrific. So a normal person would consider that to be a rock bottom. A normal person might consider, you know, I was taken and people, men forced themselves upon me at times. And again, I didn't attribute any of those things to the fact that I was a cokehead or a stoner. I didn't think, well, you know, this wannabe party girl. I didn't think it was anything to do with any of that. I just accepted it and moved on. You know, there was a time when I'd done so much coke that I'd gone blue, and I still went back and did more. To most normal people, that would be a rock bottom. It wasn't one rock bottom moment for me. It was a culmination of all of them. It was almost a year of really seriously trying to moderate. That was part of what got me to the end. It was a moment of clarity. I think I'd started, my moderation was I'd have what I would call an off month and an on month. And an on month meant I could do coke and drink and smoke or do whatever I wanted to. An off month meant I didn't drink or do coke, but I could still smoke green. And what I found was my green just went through the roof.
Yeah.
And I was starting to dread it coming to the end of an off month, because I knew what was going to happen. I knew I couldn't trust myself anymore. The amounts of nights I'd laid in my bed feeling like I was going to die, praying to something I didn't even know what I was praying to, but praying like, please, I promise I'll never do it again. If you keep me alive, do not let my children find me dead. Not for this reason. They can't, not for this. And I really meant it. If you'd lie detector tested me, I would have fucking passed it. I really fucking meant it. But I obviously I was having these more moments of clarity of I can't trust my own bullshit anymore. I can't moderate. I can't do this by myself. I was trying for a good 7 years to try and stop by myself. Before I did, I'd started to think about, well, what's next? What comes after these drugs? Because these aren't working. And that scared me quite a lot. I knew I was at a tipping point of, I'm either going to completely fucking lose control and I will lose everything and I'll probably die, or I'm going to have to put on my big girl pants and do the scariest thing ever and admit I've got a problem here and I need some help. Because although there was that massive fear of losing my children, I would have lost them if I'd carried on the way I was going. So I was at a point where I was like, if that happens, it's going to have to happen because I've got to get sober. I just can't let them feel like they weren't enough. And I say that, but for a long time they weren't. You know, I wish they were. Yeah. And I desperately wanted them to be enough. When I was a little girl, you know how like girls, when they grow up and they want to be princesses, or I just wanted to be a mum, and I just wanted to be a good mum. And I was failing at that. I wasn't the person that I wanted to be. And these moments of clarity just sort of kept happening. And I was in my garden smoking a joint, ironically, but it was like, this is it, Kaitlin. You're done. It was like someone else made that decision for me. You're done. It's time. I couldn't do it anymore. I was exhausted. I was broken. I was killing myself. I just couldn't do it anymore. Just done.
How does it look to ask for help with those substances?
For me, and I can only talk from my own experience. The way I did it isn't for everybody. I personally would never have gone to my GP. Yeah. And if mums send me messages, I don't advise doing that. I went to a 12-step fellowship. I had Googled 6 years before I went into recovery what to do if you're doing too much cocaine and you can't stop. And 12 steps came up and I looked at it and thought, fuck that, I can't do that. Firstly, there's the word God. I can't be dealing with that. It's God squad. They're going to judge me. And some of the steps I looked at and I thought, oh my God, I can't do that. I can't tell someone what a terrible mother I am, what a bad person I am. I'm the worst of the worst. They're going to take my kids away from me. I can't do that. But like I said, by the time I'd got to this, I've had it, I can't do it anymore, I was willing to do that stuff. And I think that's the difference I see between people who are really, really serious and really want to get sober and the vast majority of people that I speak to, is because the vast majority I speak to, they might say, I've had enough, I'm done. They're not willing to go to any lengths. I was willing to go to any lengths. So I re-Googled what I'd Googled before and found the closest meeting to me. And that was a few days after that moment in the garden. And I went to that meeting in secret. And, I just told my boyfriend I was going out. And I went to it and I went like full on makeup, hat on. I dressed really well so you all don't think I've got a problem. And I'm definitely better than you lot. I thought addicts were like waste people on park benches. And I rocked up at this meeting and I was like, where are all the drug addicts? Like, they were just normal people who didn't want to keep doing what they were doing and wanted to get better. Yeah, I went, sat there. Hi, Kaitlin. Don't know if I really need to be here. Just come to see what it's all about.
I wonder what people thought in that circle when you said, I don't know if I need to be here. Instantly,
the same as what I think. Yeah, same as what I think when other people come in and say that. I'm like, just you wait. Just listen. By the end of the meeting, I'm Kaitlin. I'm an addict. I'm going to come back next week and get a sponsor. And I did. That's exactly what I did. I went out and had a final blowout. It was horrible. But I went back that following Monday. I got sponsored the next day and I've been sober for 1,300 and something days.
Is it? Do you know? If you knew the exact date, I'd have been very impressed with that, because there's almost
it was the 6th of September 2022. I actually do know how many numbers it is. I've just forgotten because I'm sitting here. I do count it every day.
I was going to say, is that important to count every day?
For me, it is. You get a lot of people don't agree with that. A lot of people say, there's this saying, make the days count. Don't count the days. Well, do you know what? I'm proud of every single day I've got clean and sober. I've worked fucking hard to get where I am today. And every sober day is a miracle and it's worth celebrating for me. So I'm going to keep counting the days for as long as I feel like I want to. Yeah.
There's a lot of people that listen to this series that aren't necessarily engaging in substance misuse services, that maybe are in that position that you were in the garden that day, that haven't ever been to a meeting. Talk me through a little bit more that first day of a fellowship meeting. What was that like for you? Did it kind of hit any of the preconceptions that you had about it? Was it completely different?
It was completely different to the misconceptions that I'd had about it. It was the most freeing experience probably of my life. I've never felt hope like it. When I sat down and I started listening to the readings that are read out before the main person starts speaking, and I was like, fucking hell, this is me. All right, I get this. And then the guy at the front spoke for 20 minutes and I was like, whoa, oh my God, these people are saying this out loud. Like, aren't they scared that the police are watching or social services are waiting outside? And it was really important to me that when I first turned up at that meeting, there was a female newcomer, greeter, and she came up to me and she was like, oh, okay, so where are your kids when you're doing this? And da-da-da. And I was thinking, fucking hell, like, you can't ask me questions like that. And she was like, no, this is a safe place. Yeah. And that is exactly what I have found from it. It's 100% been a safe place for me. Without that, I have no doubt that I would be dead now. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But for me, that anonymity was essential. There being no social services there was essential for me personally as a mum.
How did you adjust to the element of God? You said earlier, the Bible bashing, whatever it may be, God bother us, whatever term people use for it. And I've heard it all for the fellowship. How do you adjust to someone who's maybe not of that belief and then going into that environment of accepting your powerlessness and handing yourself over to a higher power?
Well, look, I can only talk from my own experience, and I really try and talk from my experience rather than speak for anyone else. But the steps are in an order for a reason. You don't have to go in at step 1 and believe in God. That's not what it's about. You're not expected to either. That first step is about admitting you're powerless, right? Well, yeah. that's really fucking easy. If you've turned up at a meeting for 12-step fellowship, you're probably pretty powerless over your substance of choice, right? Nobody grows up thinking, I can't wait to go and sit in a circle every Saturday night and admit I'm a drug addict. That is not what we like. Come on, if you've got there, you've got a fucking problem, haven't you?
Of course, yeah.
Like, but people, the thing about addicts, right, is we have massive egos and we don't believe anything you tell me. I need to find out for myself. I had to surrender to the program. I had to surrender to my sponsor, to the rooms, to the people who had been there before me and come out the other side. I was so fucking willing by then. Yeah. So I'd always considered myself to be a spiritual person. I went to Thailand once, came back a Buddhist. I went to Jamaica and came back a Rasta. I didn't have a problem with God. I had a problem with religion. But 12-step fellowships are not religious. They are spiritual. So your higher power can be whatever you want it to be. My higher power is whatever powers nature, because that is more powerful than me. So many things go on day to day that are way beyond my control, way beyond my power. All these coincidences that happen to me, that is that power. So like I said, I thought I was spiritual until I realised that like spiritual people aren't cokeheads. So shit, okay, maybe I've got a bit of work to do.
What does early recovery actually look like when you're still parenting every day? Because obviously, I think there's that you need time. When you're a parent, you don't have time. You wake up, they're there first thing in the morning. They're there the last thing at night. And I don't know what your support network is like, but regardless of if you have a vast support network or no support network, you are still the parent. It's still your responsibility. How does recovery look like when you're trying to wear these hats?
It was, I'm not going to lie, it was really, really fucking difficult. Yeah, it's not an easy target. It's not an easy process to target. I don't know why I said that. It's not an easy process whatsoever. But ultimately, it comes down to how desperate you are to get clean and sober. Where there's a will, there's a way. If you'd asked me before I was in recovery to find you a bag of Coke, I would have done everything I fucking could to find that bag of Coke. So I've got to do exactly the same for my recovery.
Yeah.
And, you know, especially with mums, like I hear, because obviously my DMs are full of mums saying, how do I do it? What am I going to do? I can't get out because I've got kids. Well, do you know how many online meetings there are every day? Yeah. There's tons of them. I called in a lot of favours so that I could get out to meetings. I did book work on Zoom. I took my kids to meetings. I took my kids to book work.
Are kids like welcome at meetings?
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. I never knew that.
Yeah, 100%. I still take my son. My son loves it because he gets biscuits and donuts. So he loves it. And actually he asks me now, he says, can I come to your meeting? And I was like, yeah, like, why do you want to come? He said, because everyone's so nice. And it's really important for me, for my children to grow up knowing that addicts are not bad people.
Yeah.
Like we're judged like it's some kind of like moral failure to be an addict, and it's not. It's a chronic and deadly illness that's killing people all the time. Like, yeah. And do you know what's funny? It's that question, like, why did you start in the first place? And I'm like, have you ever had a glass of wine? Have you ever had a beer? Because that's all I did.
Yeah. That's it, isn't it? Yeah.
That is all I did as a child.
Well, I get it.
Yeah.
Do you feel more pressure having children in terms of like maintaining recovery, sobriety? Does it come with, as a mother, does it come with more pressure? Because again, it goes back to this as again, that reliance on you. What pressure does recovery and motherhood kind of come with? Where does it all coincide with each other?
Well, look, I am the primary caregiver of my children. You know, if I fall apart, everything falls apart.
Yeah.
I'm also trying to show them how to be the best. If me being the best version of myself is the best lesson that I can give my children. Even with a lot of the stuff I do, speaking out publicly like this, and people will say, oh, aren't you worried your kids are going to see this? Or aren't you worried about they're going to get judged? And it's like, no, do you know what I'm showing them by standing up and doing this and trying to help people? And admitting, do you know what? I fucked up, and I really fucked up. But I'm going to look at myself. I'm going to do the hard work. I'm going to do everything it takes to make it up to those kids. But that can be a lot of extra pressure, yeah. 'Cause mums, we're supposed to have our shit together anyway, but a mum in recovery, like, that's a whole different ball game. We are expected to really fucking be on point. We're either expected to be on point or we're expected to fail. We can't be trusted. There's just so many like dimensions to it. There's two sides of everything in this. There's that side of me that feels I still do carry, whether I should or not, I carry guilt and shame.
Yeah. I think that's important to acknowledge that, though, because I think the misconceptions of addiction, I often think so many people think, and I was glad when you said about it being almost like a transition, because I think people see the day of sobriety sometimes, or people who are still in addiction will look at sobriety in two halves of prior to the addiction and then after the addiction, and it's almost like it's just a solid black line between the two, but it's not. It very much merges.
I still consider I'm like 3.5 years in. I'm still a baby in recovery. I'm still very much learning. I'm still fucking up. I'm still having to say sorry. Like last week, I really upset my son, and my first reaction was defense. No, I didn't do anything wrong. And I went away, I sat in my car for an hour, had a cry, spoke to another woman, and I was like, shit, I'm going to go back to him and say, I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. I knew I was going to upset you, and I still did it. That was really wrong of me. Do you know how much my children will learn from me doing that?
Yeah.
There's learning in my mistakes. I think that's all right. And do you know what? A lot of parents could never do that. Yeah.
The one thing, I mean, again, my daughter's 4, but the one thing I will do is whenever I make mistakes, I will talk to her like she's a bit older than she is, and I'll say, look, Daddy is sorry. Daddy got a bit upset. Daddy got a bit angry. And I have to remember sometimes that as frustrating as a situation can be, she's 4 and I'm the adult in this situation. Yeah. And I think if I can't regulate my emotions at times, how am I expecting this of a 4-year-old child to do that? So it's interesting in the sense of, in some way, it goes back to what I was saying about my mum turning 40, thinking she had everything together. I'm still a child in my head. I don't think from now until I'm 70, I'll feel any different. Do you know what I mean? I think this is just who I am now. This is me as a person. And this is the way that I view things. And again, it is about that responsibility, but I think there's something very powerful in the fact that because you wouldn't have done that in addiction, would you? You wouldn't have apologised.
No. I would have been on the defence, and I would have fought until you just gave in.
Yeah.
I had to be right.
And even when you know you're wrong, you're still trying to admit that you're right.
Yeah, recovery really teaches you a lot of humility.
Do you still get cravings of any kind for any of the substances?
Oh, I hate that word.
Cravings.
It's so misunderstood.
Talk to me about that then.
Right. Unless you are physically dependent on something, you're not having a craving. You're having an obsessive thought about it.
Okay.
So, alcohol and benzos, for example, and heroin to a degree. Once you've detoxed from that, you're not having a craving.
Yeah.
But the whole time you're telling yourself you're having a craving, you think, oh, that's in me, it's calling me,
it's giving it more power, isn't it?
Gives it so much more power, and it is, no, it's not the right, sorry.
No. Well, this is why we're here, we're learning.
Is that word.
Do you still have obsessive thoughts about substances?
Occasionally, yeah, and I defy anyone who says they don't ever think about it. But when I wouldn't say they're obsessive thoughts, no. They pass through my mind. Occasionally, my head will go, wouldn't it be really nice to have a nice cosy glass of red wine with a roast dinner in the pub on a Sunday? But then my second thought comes in, and that's what recovery's given me, that opportunity for the second thought to come in, to remind me that it was never fucking like that. I never had one glass of red wine with a roast dinner on a Sunday. I romanticize it. My head romanticizes it. But I've got a defense now. I didn't have defense before recovery.
Yeah.
So yeah, and again, it's weed that normally gets me, and I don't even like the smell of it anymore, which makes it even, because I never thought I'd be that person that doesn't like the smell of green, because that's my favourite.
I am a person now, yeah.
But it will still be like, actually, you still like the smell of hash, so what about a joint? And yeah, look, I was on Wimbledon Common the other day, and the first thing my head thought of was, I wonder how many joints I've smoked here, because there'll be a fucking ton of them. And I did think, it would be really nice to be able to sit here and enjoy a spliff. But I know it would never just be one. It won't be that I'll ruin everything, and I can't ruin everything I've done.
Just talk to me on that, because obviously it's not a craving, because like you say, you don't have the dependency to it. How do you know then, if it's not a craving, how do you know that having that glass of red wine with a Sunday dinner would fuck everything up for you?
Because I understand the illness and the disease of addiction. What I have that makes me different to other people is that once I put one in me, I have a physical reaction that is different to other people. Once I've put one in me, that's a craving.
Yeah.
But if I haven't had one in me for ages, that's an obsessive thought.
Yeah.
And I think people really forget that your mind can make you feel a way physically. I mean, you only have to watch something like really nice on the TV, you'll get goosebumps. So don't tell me that thinking about drink or drugs can't do the same to you, you know, physically. And I hear a lot of people come to me and say, I need to go to medical detox. And I'm like, I know you don't need to go to medical detox. It's the obsessive thought that's getting you, rather than the physical craving.
And then the difference is, I think, sometimes between lapses and relapses as well. Like, talk to me
What
about...
do you mean?
So, you talk about the physical craving for some people. If someone goes back to their primary substance for a short period of time, it won't necessarily create the physical dependence to it in a very short period of time. It doesn't become a relapse until that physical dependency is back. Alcohol, I'll use as an example. If you just have a pan and you think, I've had the pan, I want another one, I've reached out to my sponsor, I'm getting help, that's it, I'm done. I've just had that one. I have fucked up, but that is just the one. That's a lapse. Because it's not going to create you can't just have one pan and your body become physically dependent to the substance again. That's just not possible.
But being dependent on something, so to me, that's a relapse, because it's the thinking that led up to that drink that caused you to have that drink.
So you would put the lapse before, because I've heard of the lapse before the relapse being a thing as well.
Yeah, and...
It's a relapse in mentality, isn't it?
And you just said that, having one beer doesn't make me physically dependent. Well, I wasn't physically dependent on anything, but I was an addict. So I
didn't experience withdrawal symptoms. You didn't experience withdrawal symptoms.
I did with experience withdrawal symptoms. Yeah, like.
But then that would be a physical dependency, wouldn't it? If there's withdrawal symptoms.
No, because your head can make that happen. Like
the placebo of it. Okay.
Yeah, because is cocaine physically addictive? Is weed physically addictive? It's not, but I felt it physically when I stopped taking them. Yeah, absolutely, but it wasn't life-threatening.
Yeah, the differences, aren't there?
Alcohol and benzos are the life-threatening ones, right? Even heroin, you might feel like you're going to die, but you're not going to die. Detox.
Yeah, that was the thing that always used to blow my mind, that someone can't die from a heroin withdrawal, but they can from an alcohol withdrawal.
Yeah,
that used to be like so confusing.
Alcohol blows my mind, right? Because I hear a lot of people... This really blows my mind. People saying they're in recovery from addiction, but they drink. That is...
I know a lot of people like that, yeah.
Alcohol is a drug. Alcohol's the most dangerous drug.
Yeah.
But you're in recovery.
But it's because that's not the primary substance that caused the problems. Yet. Yeah. There's always the yet, isn't there?
Because, I mean, I wouldn't start doing mushrooms now. I wouldn't start doing heroin now.
Yeah, because that wasn't the problem. So now
alcohol kills more people than heroin.
Yeah, but that's down to proportionality as well, because more people drink alcohol than they do. But yeah, again, when someone throws the stats at you, my mind's just like, what, really? And I know this because I've obviously delivered like training on those topics as well. Just going back to motherhood, if you could change one thing about how systems respond to mums struggling with addiction, what would it be? Whether that be policy, attitude, communication?
It would be that organisations take on board more learning from lived experience than from books and degrees, because I don't think that anyone can truly understand the mind of the alcoholic addict unless they have been there and done that. When it comes to the mum thing, for me, that's safety. I think they need to be given a chance before it's taken further. Like me, if I'd been given that one chance, I could have gone through the proper routes because I did it. I was fucking serious. If people are not serious and they're going to keep relapsing, then yeah, maybe there should be some kind of intervention. But that's not for me to judge. So
No,
that's a difficult question to answer.
Obviously, you mentioned the trouble. What would make it safer for mums to come forward?
To be able to be honest.
Yeah.
That's what saved me. That safe place to be honest and to not be judged.
And lastly, Kaitlin, I like to finish all my podcasts with a series of 10 quick-fire questions.
All right, go for it.
What's your favourite word?
Fuck.
Least favourite word?
Craving.
Tell me something that excites you.
M&M.
Something that doesn't excite you.
The Olympics.
I love the Olympics.
Oh, it's so boring.
What sound or noise do you love?
When my 3 children are together laughing together,
Nice.
That's my best sound.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Chamming.
Chamming?
You know when people cham?
Oh, I'm terrible. I didn't even know that was a word.
Oh, I think that's a
why do you
northern
have to
word.
slap your lips when you're eating your cereal? What's your dream job?
To be an actress.
Worst job you could imagine doing?
Oh, Sainsbury's, because it's so cold in there.
What, even in the summer? Oh, actually, yeah,
No, I don't want to be cold in the summer. Are you mad? I love the sun.
Even I used to work in Asda, and I remember one time there was a period of time where I was having to work on the freezer aisle. It was awful.
It's just so cold in there. It doesn't need to be that cold, man.
And then lastly, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Your children love you and they know you did your best and they're proud of you.
Kaitlin, thank you so much for joining me on Believe in People.
Thanks for having me.
And if you've enjoyed this episode of the Believe in People podcast, we'd love for you to share it with others who might find it meaningful. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode, and leaving a review will help us reach more people and continue challenging stigma around addiction and recovery. For additional resources, insights and updates, explore the links in this episode description. And to learn more about our mission and hear more incredible stories, you can visit us directly at believeinpeoplepodcast.com.